This is a redevelopment site in an urban village within Dongguan City. This is a striking scene with rows of buildings marked with the huge character demolition. Amidst the roaring noise of machinery, buildings are reduced to rubble within moments. Not only villages are being demolished, but also numerous factories. These factories and buildings witnessed Dongguan's transformation from an obscure coastal town into a world-renowned manufacturing hub. Now, as they collapse, the glory of Dongguan as the world's factory is fading. The video shows the former Qingxi Yiming toy factory in Dongguan. The rows of abandoned factory buildings reveal the grandeur of the factory in its heyday. Yiming Toy Factory was once the largest toy factory in Qingxi town, covering 9.9 hectares and employing over 10,000 people at its peak. It's said that this large factory supported the livelihood of an entire nearby street. Now it stands deserted, and the land has been bought by Country Garden for real estate development. Many of the older generation who once worked here feel nostalgic. This place where they once strived for during their youth is now a wasteland, filled with both sweet and bitter memories, making the current desolation all the more poignant. This is Lin Village, New Sun City, the largest industrial area in Tangxia, Dongguan, covering about 250 acres. It includes hundreds of factory buildings and dozens of factories, including metal, plastic, electronics, toy, jewelry, and watch factories. Now, many factories are left with empty buildings, presenting a desolate scene. Speaking of the rise and fall of Dongguan's manufacturing industry, we must mention the Yuyuan shoe factory in Gaobu town. Established in 1989 in Gaobu town, the factory produced sneakers for brands like Nike, Adidas, Reebok, Puma, and Asics. At its peak, it employed 120,000 people, occupying 50% of Gaobu town's land area and contributing to 50% of its export value. In 2007, its annual output value reached tens of billions of dollars, making it a giant in the global footwear industry. However, due to rising labor costs in China, its production gradually shifted to Indonesia and Vietnam, starting in 2009. By 2019, its workforce had dwindled to 1,200, and now it stands completely abandoned. This once glorious shoe factory, after shining for 30 years, is now a desolate ruin. This is the pedestrian street in Xialing Bay in Houjie town of Dongguan. Across the street was the once mighty VTech factory. Established in 1976, Hong Kong VTech Electronics Co. Limited produced electronic games, cordless phones, early education products, and electronic toys. In 1988, VTech set up its first mainland factory in Dongguan's Houjie town. Its products sold worldwide, achieving remarkable success, akin to Foxconn in its era. Due to relatively easy work, good benefits, and stringent entry requirements, VTech mainly hired female workers. During shift changes, the streets were crowded with VTech employees, almost all women, leading to the nickname Kingdom of Women for VTech. Across the street was the Samsung Electronics factory, also predominantly female. 10 years ago, this street was bustling with youthful faces, reflecting the vitality of the whole city. Now, the factories have moved away, people have left, shops have closed, and the streets are deserted, revealing an inexplicable sense of bleakness. The rise and fall of these major factories reflect the changes in Dongguan's manufacturing industry. Every corner of Dongguan once teemed with vitality, embodying the spirit of youth. As a world factory, Dongguan followed an export-oriented economic model. There was a saying back then, "When Dongguan's roads are congested, the world faces shortages," illustrating the city's manufacturing prowess. Now, the once busy factories have turned into ruins. Villages housing millions are being demolished, and migrant workers are leaving. The streets, devoid of their former glory, are filled with a chilling abandonment. A man who worked in Dongguan in 2004 commented that it was bustling with people after work, with lively scenes everywhere. Last year, during a business trip to Dongguan, he saw closed malls, shut factories, and bankrupt businesses. The name World Factory now evokes a sense of melancholy. Dongguan has the highest proportion of migrant population in China, consistently over 70%. According to the 2020 census, Dongguan has a permanent population of 10.5 million, with only 2.5 million registered residents, accounting for just 24%. As most of the population consists of migrant workers who viewed Dongguan as a temporary residence, if there is no work, they would leave. This is why Dongguan now appears deserted. Consequently, shops, malls, and businesses lacking customers have also closed down. This is the Jiarong Shopping Plaza in Gaobu Town, Dongguan, which has also shut down. Founded in 1992, Dongguan Jiarong Supermarket Co. Limited operated large supermarkets, with over 80 locations in Dongguan and Guangzhou. It was the oldest and once the most prosperous commercial hub in Dongguan. Many migrant workers in Dongguan shopped at Jiarong Shopping Plaza. Now, this historic and once thriving commercial center has also fallen, disappearing into history. Dongguan's decline also extends to its bus and train stations across various towns. Some have been demolished, while others are struggling to remain operational. This is Changping Railway Station in Dongguan, which once had the only train route to Hong Kong. It's now closed. It used to be bustling with thousands of people traveling to and from Hong Kong every day, but now it's empty and deserted. On March 6 this year, Hojie Bus Station in Dongguan officially stopped operating. By last September, at least 14 stations in 11 towns and districts in Dongguan had ceased operations, including major stations like Dongguan Bus Terminal and Zhangmutou Zhentong Bus Station. Dongguan's rise and fall reflect the story of China's foreign trade manufacturing industry. Today, we look at Dongguan's economic history and how it transformed from a bustling world factory to its current state of decline. Historically, Dongguan was a poor, remote county in Guangdong province, with a population of just over 1 million due to its poor geographical and climatic conditions. However, since the 1980s reform and opening up, Dongguan leveraged its proximity to Shenzhen and Hong Kong to attract many Hong Kong and Taiwanese investors, kickstarting the 3+1 trading mix. This refers to processing with supplied materials, assembling with supplied parts, processing with supplied samples, and compensatory trade. Numerous Hong Kong and Taiwanese manufacturing companies set up factories here, propelling Dongguan's economic takeoff. Although a neighbor's Shenzhen, Dongguan didn't enjoy the same special economic zone benefits and had no significant advantages. The influx of foreign investment was partly due to an unconventional and controversial method, developing a large-scale night economy, specifically the sex industry. Dongguan made a concerted effort from top to bottom to ensure the safety of foreign investors' enjoyment, which was unique at the time. This unorthodox economic development strategy indeed spurred rapid economic growth in Dongguan and attracted many Hong Kong and Taiwanese investors, transforming Dongguan from an agricultural city into an industrial one within a decade. According to the Dongguan Statistical Yearbook, the number of foreign-funded enterprises in actual production rose from 454 in 1990 to 3,908 in 2000. These enterprises spanned almost all manufacturing sectors, with the garment and electronics industries being particularly strong. Dongguan's permanent population surged from 1.76 million in 1990 to 6.45 million in 2000. Alongside manufacturing, Dongguan's sex industry also flourished. The number of rooms in 3-star or higher hotels increased from almost 3,800 in 1990 to over 18,000 in 2000. At its peak, Hojie Town alone had the third most 5-star hotels in the country, after Beijing and Shanghai. In every town and street of Dongguan, within a 500-meter radius, there were always establishments offering foot baths and saunas. The people of Dongguan also quickly became prosperous. In 1985, the per capita disposable income of urban residents was 791 yuan. By 1995, it had risen to 9,588 yuan, an 11-fold increase. After China joined the WTO in 2001, the country entered a golden decade of economic growth, and Dongguan experienced a period of steady rise. In 2000, Dongguan's GDP was 48.8 billion yuan, ranking 23rd among all cities in China. By 2006, its GDP had reached 262 billion yuan, ranking 15th, marking Dongguan's peak. Dongguan then faced a painful economic transformation. With rising labor and resource costs in China, traditional 3+1 trading mix enterprises struggled to survive. Local manufacturers, long satisfied with low-end processing, failed to create their own brands or extend their industrial chains, leading to weak market competitiveness and poor risk resilience. The global financial crisis that erupted in late 2007 and lasted until early 2009 severely impacted China's manufacturing industry, especially Dongguan's foreign-funded 3+1 trading mix sector. The number of foreign-funded enterprises in Dongguan dropped from 10,271 at the end of 2006 to 5,141 by the end of 2009. Many low-profit processing enterprises either moved to low-cost regions in Southeast Asia or closed down. Before 2006, Dongguan's manufacturing industry spanned almost all product categories, producing over 80 types of industrial products. By 2009, this had narrowed to 18 main categories, with industries like small household appliances, daily use ceramics, and machinery equipment gradually disappearing. Additionally, Dongguan's electronics industry mainly focused on desktop computer components. Unfortunately, after 2008, desktop computers were gradually replaced by laptops globally, marginalizing Dongguan's once strong electronics industry, which was phased out over time. This period is considered the darkest for Dongguan's economy. In May 2008, the Dongguan government had to initiate a difficult economic transformation. The Dongguan government directly subsidized enterprises to build their own brands and break away from the simple 3+1 trading mix economy. In 2009 alone, Dongguan's government subsidized major manufacturing enterprises with 5 billion yuan. By 2015, Dongguan had successfully completed its industrial transformation. For instance, Dongguan shifted from being a major desktop computer parts manufacturer to becoming a base for complete smartphone production. In 2015, Dongguan's smartphone production reached 236 million units, second only to Shenzhen's 370 million units, ranking second among all cities in China. After 2017, the booming real estate market in Shenzhen significantly raised business costs, forcing many manufacturing enterprises to move their production capacity to Dongguan. As a result, Dongguan gradually became China's largest smartphone production base. In 2019, Dongguan's smartphone production reached 406 million units, accounting for 23.9% of the national total, including major Chinese brands like Oppo, Vivo, and Huawei. However, Dongguan's notorious reputation as the sex capital also came to an end in February 2014, with a comprehensive anti-vice campaign initiated by the Dongguan government. Within a week, all sex venues in Dongguan were eradicated, erasing this dishonorable chapter in the city's history. Dongguan then experienced a few years of steady growth. Unfortunately, the sudden outbreak of the pandemic almost completely destroyed all the efforts of the people of Dongguan. Many industries were already on the verge of relocating out of China due to the US-China trade war, but had not made a final decision. The prolonged COVID-19 lockdowns became the last straw that broke the camel's back. From 2019 onwards, many Dongguan manufacturers chose to leave, and factory closures became commonplace. The output of various industrial products in Dongguan has been rapidly declining. For example, the most important smartphone industry, which reached a peak production of 406 million units in 2019, had dropped to 176 million units by 2023, a decline of 56.7%. Foxconn, China's largest smartphone manufacturer, gradually shifted the production capacity of its Dongguan factory to Zhengzhou and India, due to the establishment of the world's largest iPhone production base in Zhengzhou and the relocation of the Apple supply chain. These so-called low-end manufacturing industries made Dongguan one of the few Chinese cities that did not rely on real estate for development. Until 2022, its industrial output still accounted for over 72% of the city's GDP, with manufacturing output exceeding 90% of the total industrial output. Dongguan is also a city built on exports, with its manufacturing industry highly dependent on export orders. While this allowed Dongguan to fully benefit from a foreign trade economy, it also posed significant risks. A sharp decline in export orders would lead to a slowdown in Dongguan's economic growth. In 2023, due to the impact of foreign capital withdrawal, industrial chain relocation, and factory closures, Dongguan's GDP growth was only 2.6%, ranking last in Guangdong Province and among the trillion-yuan GDP cities nationwide. Some say Dongguan is now at a historical turning point. After the decline of traditional manufacturing, Dongguan is attempting to promote economic transformation towards high-end manufacturing. However, Dongguan faces a dilemma. It strives to advance towards high-end manufacturing, but is also constrained by its legacy of low-end manufacturing achievements accumulated over the years. This puts Dongguan in a transitional state. Dongguan's challenge is that advances in mid to high-end industries don't solve the job issues in mid to low-end sectors. Upgrading these industries isn't enough to sustain fast economic growth for the whole city. For example, even though Dongguan relies on Huawei for smartphone manufacturing, new models like the P60 and P70 are only sold domestically and can't match the export volumes of Apple phones. Additionally, Dongguan hasn't seen growth in the new energy vehicle and drone manufacturing sectors. Thus, Dongguan, once a glorious world factory, is gradually declining, much like the entire Chinese economy, and its era has come to an end.